Good evening, everyone. And on behalf of the Women of Reform Judaism Northeast District, I'd like to welcome you to the Nuts and Bolts of Social Advocacy and Reproductive Rights program. Just a little bit of Zoom housekeeping. Please be aware that this program is being recorded. We appreciate it if you would keep yourself on mute. Please place your questions in the chat that we will be monitoring. At the end, there will be some time for open mic so that your questions can be heard. Our speakers of the evening will be Elisa Heisman, Shoshana Dweck, Lily Heyman, and Trina Novak. Sorry about that. I'd like to say thank you to the Social Advocacy Committee of the Northeast District, which includes Lisa Robbins-Thuman, for all their hard work on this. Now, as we get into our program, I'd like to introduce to you Elisa Heisman and Shoshana Dweck. Elisa Heisman is WRJ's Marketing and Communications Manager and also oversees the advocacy portfolio. Prior to WRJ, she worked for Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation and was Director of Programs and Communications for over a decade at Congregation Beth Orr in Maple Glen, Pennsylvania. In her spare time, she is working on a memoir about her familial link to Parkinson's disease. She lives and works in the Philly suburbs with her husband, Scott, and her two kids, Jenna and Andrew, and her toy poodle, Chloe. Just a fun fact about Elisa, tomorrow is her birthday, so if you get a chance in the chat, wish her a happy birthday. Shoshana Dweck is the mom of 3 boys and our WRJ Vice President of Advocacy. A recovering lawyer and engineer, she's a Northeast Districter. She's a past WRJ President of Temple Sheree Tefillah in New York and part of the then District 3 board. An ardent advocate and Zionist, Shoshana is an ADL regional board member and part of the Israel Zionism leadership of the reform movement, representing us nationally and internationally. She's part of the North American leadership of the Jewish Agency. As past chair of New York Sostanki Foundation, she brings therapeutic art to communities recovering from trauma. And at this point, I'd like to turn the program over to Elisa Heisman. Thank you, Elisa.
Absolutely, and thank you for the birthday shout out. Next slide. And I guess we're going to go to the next slide on this. Okay, this is me. So I want to start things off by telling you guys a little bit about WRJ and how we get information about advocacy out to you. The first place that everybody really wants to be at is on our Twitter page. If you want to take a minute and make sure that you're following us, our handle is at WRJ 1913, as you'll see on the screen. And basically on this page is where you'll find information on upcoming legislation and action items. And if there's important news that's happening, we will post about it with a news story or an action alert. Everything that you will see, we will put everything that you see that WRJ is doing, we will put on our Twitter page first. We also retweet things from the RAC all the time and other organizations that we follow. So this is really a good place that you want to be a part of to find out what's going on and engage with us and put comments and hopefully retweet some of the things that we put out there. And we also advertise our events and our upcoming webinars and virtual events and our in-person rallies and a lot more. Next slide. So we have a lot of communications tools in our toolbox, and this is several of them. I'm going to go through some here, and then there's a few slides that are dedicated to these areas, so I will talk more about them when we get to those slides. But the first one I want to talk about is district communications, and whether you are from Northeast or Pacific, you guys all have a web page that is on the WRJ, that is either on the WRJ website or you have your own web page that you can get to from the WRJ website. And this is where your advocacy programs are also going to appear. You're going to want to definitely check out other areas on the WRJ website that have advocacy information as well, and I'll get into that a little bit later. You're also going to want to check out your Yammer group. If you're not a member of your district Yammer group, there's going to be a lot of information there. Your e-newsletter and social media pages. Advocacy, if you're looking for advocacy, you're definitely going to find it in all these places. Next, I want to draw your attention to the WRJ website. You can learn all about our positions on any number of issues. And if you look under a specific issue, you're sure to find a number of statements and resolutions that WRJ has made over the years. We launched this website 6 months ago, and you know, when you move, things shift around, you put things in different places. So you're going to want to check out the search bar. And if you're looking for anything about issues, it is definitely on the page. You just need to check out that search bar. You can also filter by resolutions or blog posts. Next slide. And this is one of our web pages that I'm really proud of. Right now, we just recently updated our reproductive rights page. And on this page, you're going to see at the very top there, it says download the 2022 resource guide. We had one done about 5 years ago, and a lot has happened in the last 5 years, and there's a lot of things going on right now. So we wanted to make sure you had the most up-to-date information. So there's a brand new guide there. You'll see a bunch of buttons here. The first button is for resolutions and statements. The next one is for programs and resources. If there's any alerts that we want you to know about and act on, we have a button for that. We just did Repro Shabbat a couple of weeks ago, so that button is now gone on the current site. But if you were looking for information about that, that's where you would go. And then we actually partner with other organizations like NCJW, JWI, and a lot of other nonprofits in this space. And so if you want to look at their websites, you're welcome to do that as well. And then we have a lot of people that write for us about different issues relating to, well, everybody has things that they like to write about. And for here, for the blog, we have Lily wrote something about Roe v. Wade. Julia Weinstein wrote about why our vote matters. And then we had another article here about work that was done in Massachusetts. So each blog, each issue is going to have a page like this, where you're going to have the most up-to-date information and see what our women are saying about this issue. Next slide. And I had to shut off my space heater. It was getting a little warm in here. Our Yammer page. So this is another place that you're going to want to be a part of. If you're not signed up for this group, you're going to want to check it out. Not only are we having real-time conversations on this page, but you'll also find relevant files and photos and links. You'll also see there's an events calendar and links to our YouTube page. I don't know if you knew it, but we do have a YouTube page, and there's a lot of great recordings of webinars that we have that's there. And this page is going to be something that we are going to be updating on a regular basis. Right now, it has a lot about reproductive rights. Our next issues that we're going to be updating on both the website and Yammer are gender-based violence and Israel and global affairs. Next slide. Okay, finally, I have a shameless plug for everybody. If you haven't already done the following us on Twitter or following us on Yammer, you're definitely going to want this. So this is Advocacy Matters. It is a brand new e-newsletter that is dedicated to everything that WRJ does on social justice. So this newsletter is going to, right now we're planning on having it come out every other month with some special editions for certain events. So this particular issue that's on the screen was on the day of the abortion access rally at the Supreme Court. And we had a lot of really good information here. And so we decided to put one of these out. Our next one is going to be going out in March. We will put a link in the chat so that you guys can sign up for it. And I promise you that it will be worth your while. And with that, I think that's it for me. Thanks for having me. I'll pass it along to Shoshana.
There we go. Okay. So in conjunction with these sort of 3 different hubs of communications that we have, Yammer, the website, and the push communications, the emails that come out to y'all, we've developed a standard terminology that we can use. And by standardizing our language and by making searchable hashtags across our WRJ tools, We create an element of instant recognition, of making it easier to know what's coming at us across social media and our email. And it also makes searching a whole lot easier once we're all using this in the Yammer Hub in particular. So now you'll know that if you see the phrase WRJ action alert on an email or in Yammer, that you can make a difference with just a few clicks, kind of like we're going to do at the end of the program tonight. But if you see the WRJ advocacy guide in your email heading or in a Yammer post, then you know you can pull up a couple of chairs, you can pour yourself a cup of tea, because this is going to be a longer document. It's going to have a deep dive in the issues. It's going to have Jewish text, historical WRJ engagement, and loads of individual and collective actions that you might be able to activate in your community or on your own. So this different language, an action alert, a quick individual action, an advocacy opportunity, maybe a broader individual or collective action might take a little bit more to do it. An education resource, that means it's going to be a compilation of materials. It might be an article that just came out, or some other reason, some of the Repro Shabbat materials, for example, are excellent education materials. An education program could be the link to a webinar just like the one we're at tonight, or an advertisement for a program that's coming up later. Advocacy Matters, well, you now know what that is, our e-newsletter and our special editions. Advocacy guides, I have told you about. So you're welcome to use this language within your sisterhood and within the district, and also the associated hashtags. Frankly, the more we all use it, the better, because that creates that level of consistency, and it also creates searchability for all of us. There's no obligation to use it other than in the Yammer Hub, where we really want to use it for that searching attribute. But we really think this consistency is going to be a helpful tool for all of you in connecting and engaging with members in a very recognizable way. We can go to slide 9, please. So we're just going to take a beat here because we've been talking about the communication tools. Trina is going to be coming back on a bit later to talk to us about the nuts and bolts of using these tools. But if anyone had a question about the tools themselves or about the lexicon, now is a moment where we can take any of those questions. Apparently my cat had a question, if y'all just heard her joining in. All right, if there are no questions, we can go on to the next slide. Social justice is one of the pillars of WRJ, reflecting our over 100-year commitment to advocacy within our synagogues, our communities, and in the political sphere. So whenever we come together to work on our nuts and bolts of advocacy, or to learn about or make a difference with respect to a particular issue, we're really taking our place in the over 100-year WRJ history of advocacy and education. So why do we do this? Well, informed by our Jewish values to engage in tikkun olam, we fight for equity, and we keep learning and evolving our understanding of the issues. And sometimes that means updating our own advocacy language, or learning updated ways to approach the same issue we've been working on for years, because now we know something different or deeper. So advocacy work is never just external, it's internal work as well. It changes us. It opens our ears, our eyes, and our minds to each other and to the world around us. Now, Trina likes to say that advocacy can be a fire hose, and she's right. It can be difficult to know how to start, how to continue, how to prioritize our time and our resources. That's true at the North American level for our districts and for each local organization and individual woman. Remember, you don't have to solve the problem, and you certainly don't have to solve all the problems. But if we keep working on them together, and if we follow our passions together, we're going to get there. Next slide, please. Now, I've used some of these words already, and we know that people sometimes have questions about what's the distinction. But first, I want to start with what the name is for our advocacy committee for WRJ North America. We call it the Education to Action Committee, and we refer to how we think about advocacy as the E2A approach to advocacy. And that is way more than just a name. It's truly a philosophy on engagement of yourself and others in advocacy work. So let's start with the terminology, social action. That means addressing immediate needs, making a sandwich, driving someone to get a COVID shot. So what's social justice activity? think of it as broader impact activity. So it's also an action. Social justice activity helps us remove or get around an unjust barrier. And this can include allyship, attending a protest, generally working toward equity in economic, political, or social opportunities and rights. So that's your voter registration work, driving someone to the polls, being an upstander, raising your voice on Twitter or elsewhere to bring down barriers for someone else. That's all social justice activity. So then what's advocacy? This is where we get into organized efforts to impact policy, lobbying, petitions, systemic level work for changes in law and policies. And it's not just governmental. You can advocate for changes in your synagogue or even in WRJ. If you make sure that there's better access for someone who is disabled to your synagogue's Rosh Hashanah services, you're an advocate. And then there's education, our key that unlocks advocacy. And that's why we call it education to action, because education is our gateway drug to advocacy work, like putting butter on vegetables for a child or putting chocolate on anything. Education gets the ball rolling and raises interest, even as it helps you choose what part of the work will be meaningful for you, for your time, and for your engagement. So the E2A philosophy recognizes and values all kinds of advocacy work, from a 10-minute education program at a board meeting to making blankets for the homeless to meeting with your senator. It all moves the dial. It all makes an impact. For example, just showing up is an act of advocacy. How is that? Well, y'all showed up to this program tonight, and that tells your WRJ district of your level of interest. And if you then talk about it at a Temple board meeting or at a WRJ board meeting at your synagogue, that lets your clergy and your board know that this matter matters to you. So following in the footsteps of the generations of sisterhood leaders before us, we lift up all aspects of advocacy work, from education to action, from synagogue to state house. And that is the WRJ E2A approach to advocacy. Next slide, please. Now, this is a meme that many have seen, and it's usually looked at for the difference between equality and equity, right? So that equality is when you treat everybody, equality is when you try to make sure that everybody gets treated the same, right? And then if we go to the next slide, equity is helping everybody find their level so that we can all see over the fence. And then social justice might be the step of lowering the barrier, finding a way that everybody is on the same playing field. But I want to take this one step further, because these many of us have seen before. But I want to talk about how we can't just reuse our materials from last year, why it's important to make sure that as we're doing advocacy work, we advance our approach and our language to match how the world has continued to move forward. So the next slide, please. Because sometimes when we make a change, for example, if we took down the fence, it seems like a great solution. Now everybody can see the ball game. But there are unintended consequences. The fence was there for safety. So now by bringing down that barrier, we've made everybody at risk. So the correct solution, for example, creating a ramp for somebody who needs access in that way, it can be nuanced. It can require balance and understanding and really taking a deep dive into what the issue is in order to figure out how best to do the repair. Next slide, please. So by being in honest dialogue with each other, other solutions can be found. So where do we start? What do we work on? How do we choose issue A over issue B? The WRJ website, as Elisa told you, has a lot of resources that can help you decide what issue you want to tackle and in what way. Our resolutions and guides give you a ton of information. So if we have something that's labeled a resolution, it also will have an associated advocacy guide. And that's where you're going to get Jewish background and education, action, advocacy ideas. They're both specific opportunities, but they're also full of ideas that will trigger other ideas. So poking around among the guides and inside of our resolutions, even our old resolutions, is a great way to be inspired to figure out what you might do and what issue you might want to work on. Because then you have to choose a focus. If you let it, the sheer number of wrongs that need to be addressed can overwhelm you. So how many topics can you delve into shallowly? How many can you delve into deeply? Do you have multiple groups that each want to focus on a topic? Or are you really seeking something that you can do all together? So it's important to find that one topic. All of those are correct answers, and you need to work on them for yourself or with your sisterhood or with your district to choose which way you want to approach it. And then, of course, there's opportunities for education, sharing information, getting ideas. That's a way that all of our different communication tools can help you. We have push communication, we have engaged communication on Yammer where you can talk to each other, and you can also speak with your district advocacy leader. She's awesome, and she's tied into a lot of resources herself. So going back to the E2A philosophy, which we always come back to as our touchstone, it's a constant process of education, sensitivity, centering the voices of those who are directly impacted, and being open to new areas of need and inclusion. Education to action is a cycle, not a single direction arrow. And you can place yourself and your work anywhere on that cycle to start. Next slide. All right, questions on these background pieces of advocacy? Okay, wonderful. Then we can move to the next slide and I hand it over. Lisa, are you going to be introducing Trina and Lily?
I'm Lisa Robbins-Thuman, and I'm going to be introducing Trina Novak, who is the immediate past president of the Women of Reform Judaism Northeast District and a WRJ board member. She currently serves as a co-chair of the Education to Action Committee. She's past sisterhood president and member of the Sisterhood of Temple Beth Shalom of Needham, Mass. Trina resides in Needham and enjoys the loving connections she has with her husband, Jim Maver, her 2 adult children, Standard Poodle Bailey, and her extended family of WRJ sisters. I also have the pleasure of introducing Lily Heyman, who's originally from Florham Park, New Jersey, where she was a member of Congregation Beth Hatikva. Lily graduated from the University of Michigan's Gerald R. Ford School of Public Policy in 2020 with a BA in Public Policy and minor in Sociology, Law, Justice, and Social Change. On campus, Lily was heavily involved in Dance Marathon, facilitated a program-based leadership development program at the Barger Leadership Institute, served as an elected representative in Central Student Government, and assisted in sexual assault prevention research. She has interned for MP Cheryl Hardcastle in the House of Commons of Canada and Senator Cory Booker in his DC office. She is honored to dive into Jewish social justice advocacy with WRJ following her work as a campaign field organizer in Michigan and Georgia for the general and runoff elections. Lily's legislative portfolio includes reproductive health and rights, justice, labor, disability rights, issues, and human trafficking. She is also a legislative assistant for the Religious Action Center.
Thank you, Lisa. WRJ can be defined as a network of women working together to empower women and communities through bonds of sisterhood, spirituality, and social justice. Since advocacy is one of the pillars of our organization, you can see that our team is made up of many active groups. We've been working on our internal structures to best promote our advocacy efforts. WRJ emphasizes both collective and individual actions, strengthening the still small voice of the individual and bringing women together to become a thunder. At the center of the WRJ advocacy world are our incredible staff partners, Elisa, Kate, and Lily, who work extensively with Shoshana, our vice president and our fearless leader. They make sure to elevate the issues we WRJ women are concerned about. The Education to Action Committee is the beating heart of the portfolio, and we share a deep partnership. This committee is less than a year old, and our mission is to focus on bringing educational and action opportunities to our women. Our Freedom to Vote advisory team helps us connect with the Religious Action Center's Racial Justice and Freedom to Vote campaign. Needless to say, there will be a lot of activity in this area as we head toward midterm elections. WRJ has representation on the RAC's Commission on Social Action, which is the board of the Religious Action Center. WRJ also has representatives on the URJ Amicus Brief Committee and at the UN. These WRJ liaisons and representatives report to us quarterly and bring back both information and advocacy opportunities. And I want to point out with a bit of pride that the Northeast District is well represented. The Resolutions Committee will convene next year to evaluate which proposed resolutions to prepare and present to the legislative body for a vote. I want to highlight our new district leaders network. Each district has a vice president of advocacy or an advocacy chair. They meet quarterly to discuss what is going on in each district, to exchange ideas and to work together. We can learn from district leaders what our women are passionate about. The district leaders, in turn, learn from all of our district members. As a former president of this district, I know that the relationships the area directors form with the sisterhoods are key. Area directors can bring resources to you, bring ideas, passions, and areas of interest to the district and to WRJ North America. Next slide, please. Here is a list of our 7 current high priority issues. They can be found grouped into 6 categories on the WRJ website with a description of what is covered under each heading. Diversity, equity, and inclusion work is being incorporated into all portfolios across WRJ and within our offices too. WRJ's high priorities can change and may be different from issues that districts and locals focus on. WRJ North America puts substantial resources into our high priorities. And we love working with districts and locals on the high priorities. Yet we acknowledge that each district and local sisterhood is independent and chooses its own advocacy work. WRJ North America is expanding the opportunities for our members to share questions, information, and inspiration effectively across Yammer and through the District Leaders Network, and for local sisterhoods and individuals to do the same in the Yammer Hub. Next slide, please. I know there is a bit of frustration expressed by our women when it comes to navigating Yammer. Many women have found it difficult to search for the information they want. Several of the Yammer groups are not using their page as a hub. Earlier, Elisa showed you an example of how the advocacy group has been nicely organized to connect women with easy to find resources. I want to emphasize that if we use the standardized language and hashtags that are posted in the resources section whenever we post something in the chat section, that will help women find information while searching for a specific topic. So please refer to that standardized language resource. And after a while, posting with it will become a habit. And using those hashtags as search terms will help you find information and materials. Yammer is the place to find the up-to-the-minute information. We want everyone to interact, post, and contribute. Again, a bit of Northeast pride. Our Northeast Yammer page is well organized, so make sure you are a member of that group. They cross-reference many posts in other groups. If you are a local sisterhood leader and you are still not happy navigating Yammer, perhaps you can ask 1 or 2 women to monitor Yammer and report back to you about the latest goings on. Next slide, please. Here is a list of advocacy resources. As a WRJ member, it is your mission to make sure you have signed up to have access to these. I want to highlight the first 2 points. Make sure you have joined the advocacy group, now the Advocacy Hub in Yammer. And also please opt in to receive the Advocacy Matters quarterly newsletter, as well as other WRJ publications. Next slide, please. It is up to us district and local leaders to share our resources. Please spread the word and get others to sign up for Yammer and our publications. This includes all sisterhood members and individuals. Share it with your sisterhood boards and fellow WRJ members. The Advocacy Hub is open to anyone who is a member of the WRJ Yammer group. Encourage local leaders to share information as a benefit of WRJ North American membership. WRJ resources can be helpful and serve as examples for local programming. Also, please feel free to take material from it and share it in your temple bulletin, with attribution, of course. Remember, in most cases, you don't have to be a WRJ member to take part in a WRJ program. And it's a great way to bring people into the work we are doing together and to get them involved. Next slide, please. We would love it for all of you to be as engaged as possible in WRJ's advocacy work. Engagement and impact helps each member feel a part of what WRJ North America is doing. Next slide, please. Does anyone have any questions about any of the how-tos I just covered?
So while people are putting together any questions I might have, I'm going to answer a question that was put up a little bit earlier about what does it mean to center voices? And centering voices is not just about who you put into the webinar. Centering voices means going to the people who are impacted to help you even design the work that you're going to do or figure out the approach that you're going to take. Let them help you develop the narrative of what you want to accomplish and what you're going to talk about. And then, of course, also, wherever possible, bringing those voices of those impacted by the issue that you're talking about into the conversation. So, but the learning from centered voices starts at the very beginning of planning of any activity.
Thank you, Shoshana. And now Lily will give us an update on reproductive rights.
Thanks, Trina. Next slide, please. I will dive right in. So I just want to level set here to start. So what are reproductive rights? I'm sure many of you know. It is the right and freedom to choose if, when, and how you want to reproduce or to reproduce. Many advocates use the term reproductive justice, which is a human rights framework coined by Black leaders nearly 30 years ago. Sister Song defines it as the human right to maintain personal bodily autonomy, have children, not have children, and parent the children we have in safe and sustainable communities. Next slide, please. So reproductive rights is a large umbrella. It covers a lot of different things besides just abortion. So like I said, it covers abortion rights and access to abortion counseling and services. It covers parental notification and consent. If someone underage needs to go to their parents for permission to get an abortion. It includes birth control and contraceptives and family planning access, comprehensive sexuality education, LGBTQ inclusive healthcare. Unfortunately, the healthcare system in the US has historically failed and largely continues to fail the LGBTQ plus community, as LGBTQ plus people experience major disparities in sexual and reproductive healthcare and worse health outcomes than the population overall. These differences are due to a series of barriers in the healthcare system, including lack of information, fragmentation of healthcare services, discrimination from providers and insurance issues. And all of these can be exacerbated by racism and other intersecting oppressions. Reproductive rights also includes maternal health. Another stat for you is Black mothers in the US are 3 to 4 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related complications than their white counterparts. Many Black women face barriers accessing reproductive health care that they need. And that also brings me to racial justice. Racial justice is an important aspect of reproductive rights, as communities of color face a unique set of barriers, not only to abortion and birth control access, but also to the ability to raise their families in safe, healthy environments due to systemic racial inequities, whether that be residential segregation, where you live, economic injustices, employment barriers, a whole slew of things, including access to childcare. If there's no one to watch your kid while you go get an abortion, then you don't have access to abortions. But today I'll be zooming in on access to abortion. Next slide, please. So January 22nd marked the 49th anniversary of the US Supreme Court's landmark Roe v. Wade decision. The Roe decision was revolutionary as it protected a pregnant person's right to have an abortion without excessive government restrictions. However, now we face a grim reality that Roe may not reach its 50th anniversary. This spring, the court will deliver its decision in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization, the case that could functionally overturn Roe. So with abortion access continually under attack, we are reminded rights do not guarantee access. Even under Roe, abortion restrictions and bans have kept abortion care out of reach for many people, especially Black, Indigenous, and people of color, people with disabilities, LGBTQ plus people, and people to work to make ends meet. So Roe v. Wade is at risk because of state restrictions, like I said. In fact, in the 49 years since Roe, over 1,300 state abortion restrictions have been enacted, including parental consent laws, waiting periods, gestational limits, inaccurate counseling, and ultrasound requirements. In 2021, 106 state restrictions were enacted. That's 106, marking it as the worst legislative year yet for abortion. And another harmful barrier to care that obstructs an individual's constitutional right to abortion is the Hyde Amendment. Going a little backwards here in the slide. The Hyde Amendment bars federal funds from being used for abortions, denying abortion coverage for people, predominantly people of color and low-income individuals enrolled in Medicaid, Medicare, the Children's Health Insurance Program, CHIP, federal employees and their dependents, Peace Corps volunteers, Native Americans, and people in federal prison and immigration detention centers. So contrary to what anti-abortion advocates say, no taxpayer money currently goes to abortion services. So when insurance coverage is denied for abortion, people are either forced to carry the pregnancy to term or pay for care out of their own pockets, which is an extreme barrier. Further, people today face obstacles accessing abortion care due to inaccessible public transportation, lack of paid leave or affordable childcare, and discrimination on the basis of race, poverty, gender, and disability. So, like I said, Roe v. Wade is at risk, and on our radar is Dobbs versus Women's Health Organization, which is a case that could overturn Roe. Mississippi asked the courts to overturn Roe v. Wade. Next slide, please. If this happens, almost half the states in the US are poised to ban abortion entirely. So just looking at this map, we know the Northeast generally looks okay, but that means that it's up to us. It'll be up to us to help out those in other states. It'll be up to us to raise our voices for those who live in states that are at risk. People maybe may have to travel across state lines to receive abortions. We need to be ready to help them. And no one, if some of us don't have access to abortion, it really is inequitable, unequal, and we need to do our part to make sure that people who can get pregnant across the country have access to the services they need. Next slide, please. So Jewish tradition recognizes abortion as essential healthcare that is not only permitted, but in some cases required when the life of a pregnant person is at risk. There are several other Jewish teachings that inspire our commitment to advocating for equal access to abortion. Here are just some quotes if you want to take a second to look at them. So as Reformed Jews, we know that every person deserves bodily autonomy and access to healthcare, including abortion care, free from barriers and stigma. Banning potentially life-saving medical procedures and interfering with the patient's decision-making and moral agency runs contrary to Jewish teachings and infringes on religious freedom. So Reformed Judaism teaches us that the life of a pregnant person is placed above the life of a potential fetus, or the potential life of a fetus. It also teaches us that body includes the soul. So when so mental health is equally as important as physical health when it comes to well-being. If your mental health is at risk, that is also included. And also, Reformed Jews are very concerned that one religious perspective is not made into law. As we know, we don't want one religion to dominate legislation because that infringes on our religious freedom. And it can have a ripple effect to many, many other things. So the legality of abortion is just the beginning, especially with the fate of Roe in the balance. We must codify the rights granted by Roe v. Wade and go beyond Roe to ensure that abortion is not only legal, but also accessible and free of barriers and stigma. You might realize that I'm saying abortion a lot. And for many years, people have used euphemisms and tried to avoid the word abortion, which only adds to the stigma and therefore adds to the barriers people face to receiving the care that they need. So activists now are being really intentional about saying the word without shame. Next slide, please. So there's a lot of things that you can do. We'll get to this at the end. We'll have a moment at the end where you can take action, but I just want to go through them right now in regards to abortion access. So you can urge the Senate to pass the Women's Health Protection Act. The Women's Health Protection Act would create a federal safeguard against the countless state restrictions, regulations, and bans that I described earlier that prevent people from accessing the abortion care they need. This basically puts Roe into law and bans and protects against those state restrictions that we're seeing pop up across the country. We can also there's also two links there that you'll see. The first one is sending a letter to Congress, and that'll be just putting in your information. It'll auto-generate your elected officials, and all you have to do is click submit. I wrote the letter all for you. You don't need to do anything. But of course, you can customize it as you please with personal story. If there's something that is that resonates with you, that's always very compelling. And the second one is a call-in link, and you can leave a message for your elected officials' offices describing your support for this bill. They'll give you the phone number, everything you need once you put your zip code into the system. And also you can urge Congress to repeal the Hyde Amendment. Like I said, the Hyde Amendment prohibits federal funds to go towards abortion services. So repealing the Hyde Amendment through the EACH Act would prohibit federal health insurance coverage, would repeal the Hyde Amendment and allow federal funds to go towards abortion services, and which means allowing people on Medicaid et cetera, to use their health insurance to cover abortion services. So that would be a huge step in breaking down these barriers. We'll drop these links in the chat at the end, and we'll also show you other action alerts. So that is it from me. I'll pass it to the next person. Thank you so much for learning with me, and I'm happy to answer any questions in the chat.
Thank you, Lily. I just want to say that every time I see that map flash up, that it's just incredible to see something like that. And even though we are technically pretty okay in the Northeast, there was a push in Massachusetts after we thought, okay, Roe Act is passed, this is all good. There was a push by a group to get a fetal personhood bill onto the ballot in November as a question. That was fortunately rejected as a ballot question, but we always need to be aware of what is going on. So next slide, please. And the next slide after that, please. Okay, we are at resources. So here are all the links you need to sign up, share and engage, and to be notified about and participate in all WRJ advocacy opportunities. These slides will be provided in Yammer after the meeting, and the links are all active. The directions on how to sign up for the Yammer Hub are listed in a step-by-step fashion, as you can see. If you haven't signed up for Advocacy Matters yet, that link is in the chat for you. Please share this entire slide with anyone who you think might wish to engage with WRJ through our advocacy work. Please remember, they will have to be WRJ members to use Yammer, and we hope this will encourage engagement and membership. Next slide, please. This slide gives you a link to WRJ's advocacy section on the WRJ website, also to WRJ social media links and to Northeast District social media links. Please share this entire slide with anyone who may be interested in what we do. And now, next slide, please. And I'd like to ask Shoshana to come back.
Well, thank you, Trina. And thank you, everybody who has spoken so far. I know you guys have heard a lot of information. So I'm going to tell you something right now, but you don't have to take any notes, and there's definitely no test on this part. But it's just a matter of being proud of being part of WRJ. Because we know by your being here tonight, you're both interested in advocacy and advocating well with impact, and you're interested in reproductive rights. So I wanted to just give you a little peek at all of the things that we've done just in the past few months with regard to reproductive rights, because of course, January, carrying the Roe anniversary, tends to be a focal point for reproductive rights advocacy. So with the help of Lily as our RAC WRJ legislative assistant, we have protested at the Supreme Court. We have written blog posts. We have hosted webinars, including one on the intersection of voting rights and reproductive rights. And we also co-sponsored a program from Northeast District's own Temple Shalom in Newton, Mass, and one from the Pacific District as well. We updated our Repro Health and Rights resource guide. And I know Lisa talked about it, but I'm telling you, check it out. It is truly fantastic. It is more comprehensive than it was before. And most importantly for the Northeast, the guide now includes Canadian issues, which mostly surround issues of abortion access. While Canada has no law restricting the right to abortion, the funding to provide access to abortions is controlled at the provincial level, and that can be a barrier. It's a way in which we can really learn from the issue of having the right is not the same thing as having the access. And it's also important to note that while we're focusing right now on abortion, Lily really talked to you about all the different arenas of reproductive rights. And reproductive rights activity broadly can include period projects, advocating for sex ed programming in your schools, including for that sex ed programming to be appropriate for the LGBTQ community and to be inclusive, and many other issues around reproductive health and rights. And that can all be seen in the resources in the guide. And those issues, of course, cross the border. We also became a founding member of the Jewish Abortion Access Coalition. Lily and I are there for those meetings monthly. And as part of that, we held a digital day of action in January, right before the Roe anniversary, and partnered in Repro Shabbat. And we are planning more collective action. So keep your eye on that Twitter and on those Yammer pages. Okay, so what's coming? Obviously, we're keeping an eye on what's going on in the Supreme Court sometime between now and June, most likely June, we're going to have decisions. We are going to continue updating our materials and providing you. So the newest material is going to be in the Yammer page, and on that events calendar, as events go by, like this one now, no longer would have registration. As soon as we have the link for the program, that link will be there. So if you miss something, that's a place where you can go and catch up. We also have upcoming programming around Jewish Disability Advocacy Day, February 23rd and 24th. That's collective advocacy that's happening by the Jewish people. A lot of organizations are coming together. With respect to the Kotel, the Western Wall, we are collecting Torah mantles to represent our support for the egalitarian section and for the right of women to be equal at the Western Wall. I'm actually delivering one when I go to Israel in just a few days. There will also be the RAC civic engagement activity will be coming up later in the spring as we head toward the elections in 2022. In June, we're looking at having another Pride event, and there will be additional WRJ advocacy topics coming up. So keep your eyes open and be in the loop. I also want to make sure you're aware a civil rights journey is coming, October 19th to 23rd. I have the privilege of being one of the co-chairs of that, so I'm happy to answer any questions about it. We don't have a lot to say yet, except we know that we're going to be in Atlanta, Birmingham, Montgomery, and Selma, and we're going to cry, we're going to laugh, we're going to learn, and we're going to act. So I hope you can join us for some or all of these. Next slide, please. Okay. In a moment, I am going to introduce our final speaker. And that's going to be Sharon Silva, and she's going to close out the formal part of our evening. But before I do, I want to invite you to stay for a few minutes after that formal part of the presentation, if you can. And we're going to have a chance to make some sort of rapid fire good trouble together on the advocacy issue or issues of your choice. It's a really nice way to end a program the E2A way, to have some education and then a chance to do some immediate action. So if you can, please don't leave when Sharon is done, and I'll come back and we'll make good trouble together, and we'll have the mics open. We can even chat with each other while we're doing it. And now my favorite bio to share is that of the esteemed Sharon Silva, president of WRJ Northeast District and a life member of Temple B'nai Chaim Sisterhood in Georgetown, Connecticut. She earned her PhD in English literature from Brandeis University, is a professor of English at the University of Connecticut and Norwalk Community College, and she is an award-winning novelist. Sharon?
Thank you, Shoshana. Thank you to everyone who developed this program for this evening for all of us. Michelle Rosen, these are the women you've seen for the last 45, 50 minutes. Michelle Rosen, who's the Northeast District's Vice President of Advocacy, and who conceptualized this program and how it could best serve all of us. And speakers whose bios you've already heard: Shoshana Dweck, Lily Heyman, Trina Novak, our past president of the district, Elisa Heisman, Lisa Robbins-Thuman, an area director for our district. And behind the scenes, and you may have noticed that she was sharing her screen throughout, is Jennifer Rosenberg, who's also an area director in our district. But thank you to all of you for whom this effort was intended to inspire, to educate, and most importantly, call to action. What you heard tonight is one step on a long path of development and commitment. We're prepared to take the next steps together, all of us. Tonight's time is coming to an end, And if you need to go, please do the actions on the last slide when you receive the follow-up email in the very near future. But for those of you who wish to stay, we now have a chance to be together and to talk and to already immediately, as Shoshana just suggested, already take action on what we learned tonight. So thank you to all of you for being here. You know that we'll meet again for the best of reasons as we pursue so many of these initiatives that were presented to us tonight. Thank you. Shoshana, do you want to?
Thank you, Sharon. Yes, Jennifer, if we can put up that last slide again just for a minute, and we'll tell everybody what we're going to do. We're going to stretch our arms a little bit, stretch your thumbs, and be ready to do some click actions. Okay, first of all, an action on voting rights. Check your voter registration status. Sometimes things happen and our status is not what we expect it to be, or our voting place has changed. So we're going to give you the link so you can quickly check to make sure you're in good shape for the upcoming elections. Reproductive rights, Lily told you about those actions. 2 of them are click actions. You click, you get the letter, it gets sent for you. 1 of them is phone calls. Even if you have representatives who are very good on this issue, a thank you from you invigorates them in the fight. It reminds them to bring this issue to the fore. It is very important to call even our advocates who are on our side. The Jewish Disability Awareness, Acceptance, and Inclusion Month is coming to an end. There's an action to urge Congress to pass the Able Age Adjustment Act. And there is also a link that was already put up separately, where if you want to register for the education activity or for the advocacy day that the Jewish people are coming together to do collectively, that's in there as well. For Black History Month, we have a link to express your support for the study of reparations. And on anti-Semitism, we have the push to demand for a vote on the U.S. Special Envoy for Anti-Semitism. That advocacy has gotten us to a hearing, and now we need to get to a vote. So we can take this slide down. People can open their microphones if you want. Choose whichever action you want to take first. Each one just takes a couple minutes to do. If you're making phone calls on your cell phone, just mute yourself. Otherwise, hi, welcome to Good Trouble. And thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Shoshana.
Absolutely.
Hi, everybody. I'm picking an action. I hope you are too. I'd love to hear what everyone's actions are.
Where are you starting, Michelle?
I am going to start with the Women's Health Protection Act, and I'm going to click right now.
Go for it. I actually, before we came on, I spied on my kids. I checked their voter action, and my 19-year-old had a little chat.
I just did the women's health protection. Very easy, very simple.
Excellent. Thank you. Every voice matters.
And if you hit remember me, it auto-fills for the next one that you're going to go to.
That is good advice. Beth, where did you start?
So I see there's on the right side, it's like a list of them. And I thought I was clicking on the first one and then it just sort of disappeared, or I wasn't sure. Because it's
okay,
got a,
you lost the link for the first one. I'll pop it in there again.
Well, no, I mean, I see the link. I just wasn't sure if because it didn't seem that that anything happened because I clicked on it. That's what I mean.
Where is your browser window? Is that hiding behind something, or maybe it's small, lower down on your screen? Sometimes I slide mine down when I'm doing a Zoom call. So you have to have your browser window up and it will have popped up.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, well, maybe it is. Or maybe, well, I guess the problem also is that the browser window is also how I got to the Zoom.
Got it. So then, it might be on another, you can click on a tab and swipe it over to the side.
Okay.
And that'll let you see both.
Let's see. Well, let me just see if, okay.
So sometimes what I do is I split my screen so that I can see both, so I can still be with my friends and view them and view whatever else it is
Okay,
on the
yes, well, I
screen.
don't know how, I know I used to be able to do that, but well, I will try this again. Or, well, the other thing I was just wondering, because there were lots and lots and lots of resources and I was writing
Yes.
down some stuff, but is this the information things I can actually go later back to, like the WRJ Northeast District website, or et cetera, and find these things too?
We are going to be putting all of this out there for you. Give us a
Okay,
day,
that's
give us
what
a
I
day or
figured.
two to get it together, and it will all be listed on Yammer for you.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, usually it takes just a little bit of time to
Well,
sort of
that's-
edit the end of the video, right? Because usually we've like caught our talking at the beginning before everybody got on, that kind of
well,
stuff. So we
yeah,
just need
let me
a day or
just-
two to do that.
Let me just try, let me see.
But the other thing that you can do, because the chat is open, is you can highlight everything. Like if you just click at the top of the box that Lily put in and highlight everything, and you right click on it and you do copy, you can paste
Oh.
it like into a Word document.
Oh,
And
right,
then when we get
right.
off, you can just click, click, click and go through and do all the actions from your Word document.
Okay,
And
that
be
would make
careful,
sense.
they repeat, so you don't have to keep repeating them. No, because I was scrolling down to make sure that I'd done them all.
Yeah.
A few of them have been repeated.
Yeah. Some of them got repeated if somebody had trouble finding it. Yep.
So it was very easy. The links were very simple. Thank you very much. They have all been done.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Lily had to go at the very end because she's the one who popped everything in there and helped us organize all that. It's a great benefit that we have a RAC LA who's connected with WRJ. And she's-
Cutting and pasting them all now into a Word document, and I will be putting them up onto WRJ Northeast Facebook tomorrow.
Oh, fantastic.
Or
You'll
I
get a
could
lot
be
of
good
action
and do it
then.
tonight, but let's not push it. I know my limits. I've been up
Knowing our
since
limits
5
is
this
important.
morning.
Wow.
Okay, everybody, have a good night.
Okay.
Good
Thank
night.
you and have a
Happy
very happy
birthday.
birthday.
Thank you,
Yes.
thank you. See you later.
Bye.
I see that Risa's hanging in there.
Always our visitor from the Pacific District. is
Right,
not
but
even
it's
right
early
where
for
we are.
her. She's got a couple hours left in the day.
That's right. She's a Northeast native though. She comes by it honestly.
It's only 5:30 out there.
Oh, you're muted, Mom. You're still muted. Oh, I don't have my coaster that says you're muted.
Okay, well, I think I think at least one of them worked, and I'll just try the other ones.
Excellent,
afterwards. So,
excellent.
Yeah,
Jeanette,
no.
thank you.
right. Well, so my main thing is I'm going to try and get others on our board and
Right.
Oh, that's fantastic. Share it. Thank
to at
you.
least get people more excited about, and that we don't necessarily have to start with something overwhelming. We can just start small.
If
then
that
I
is what
just-
you got from
Great.
tonight, then you were listening. That's fantastic. That
Right,
is exactly the
just
message.
even knowing that there's small pieces of information and we don't have to do a large program, you can start small, just letting people know what's on the WRJ, what's on the Northeast District, and then they can decide what they personally want to do.
Absolutely.
Shoshana,
Great
You
way
have
to
to learn
start.
to walk before you can run, and it sounds like that's exactly what you're doing.
Shoshana,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm back to this situation where I wanted to immediately fill the position of the envoy, the special envoy to monitor combat anti-Semitism. And I got this letter in front of me and it says submit at the bottom, but I don't see how I send it to the people I want to send it to. Or
Okay, so
anything.
you fill in your information, you press submit to see letter, you will then see it.
Okay, submit, but I haven't, all right, submit, because I haven't,
Yeah, when you submit, then you see the letter and you can customize it if you want to. You have to send it twice, once to each of your senators.
Oh, wait a minute.
It has all the background information, and then at the bottom it says compose messages, message 1. And
Oh,
this one will go to your
that's-
senators.
That's what I screwed up. All right, it's typical me. Okay.
Excellent, you got it. Yeah, but you ask the questions and that helps people do it. Wonderful.
I did that one the other day and already got an email back from Senator Schumer.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Nice. Yep.
He's one in particular, when we have lobbied him, that he feels strongly the weight of his position and the value of the advocacy to him, of saying thank you, of saying we're grateful for what you are doing. Sometimes on a bad day, it means the world to him, and he's very open about that.
Yep. And living in what I call the Massachusetts bubble, you know, having Warren and Markey as senators, and my new rep is Auchincloss, and he's people thought he was more of a moderate to conservative. This guy ends up being a little more of the liberal.
Yeah, but you know, things do change over time. Yeah.
Absolutely. He served in the military, and then he really wanted to make a difference, and he started locally in Newton, and it's gone from there.
Trina, isn't he a Jackie Kennedy connection?
I'm not sure if it's a Jackie Kennedy connection.
Because wasn't her stepfather Hugh Auchincloss?
I'm not sure. I that part of Jewish geography, I don't know, I'm afraid.
It's yeah, I guess it's a common enough name.
And Risa,
Yes.
it's good to see you.
Who am I talking to?
That's
Trina.
Trina. I'm the one
Oh,
that.
Trina, hi. Hi. I've got this letter in front of me, and let me just open up my Zoom again. Hello.
Hello, sweetie. It's good to see you.
It's complicated to see me. I still don't. It's the instructions say, Shoshana, feel free to personalize this letter. I don't know how to do this.
Then don't personalize it.
Don't
Just hit
do it.
send.
Click
Just
submit.
hit, I just
Send.
Send it.
At the
Just
very
I
bottom of
hit
the page.
submit.
Just hit send.
and it's gone.
It's gone.
It's
You've
Oh,
done it.
I did it.
You did it finally.
Finally.
All right. I think with that success, it's a good time to end. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Good to see
Michelle.
everybody. Jen, thank you for the technical support tonight. Really appreciate
Yes,
it.
Jen,
Jennifer.
thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Shoshana, you asked someone before, when did you start or where did you start? And I have to say, I have been doing this, and I thought we had put abortion rights to rest 50 years ago. I still have my t-shirts about
Yeah.
that from 50 years ago.
I
Yep.
remember it when I was 35 years ago.
Yeah.
And
All right,
just-
so I will tell you, I found some of Eric's mother's stuff when she was marching in Washington DC for this stuff.
Mhm.
Oh,
That goes back a
Washington-
lot of years.
honestly, in those days, we didn't need much provocation to march over the Brooklyn Bridge, which we did might as well have taken a college course in marching over the best meeting places to meet up with your groups. But I still have that stuff.
Yep,
If
the Boston
you'll
Song.
allow me to quote Shakespeare, in that Friends Roman's countryman speech, there's a line of Caesar, and it's, I think, true of Trump. The evil that men do lives long after them. The good is often interred with their bones. The evil that he has done is going to affect generations.
I took a class today with my husband, and what I'm supposed to say to you in response is, Musar says that you have to find the good in everybody. And the good right now is to recognize the importance of the Abraham Accords and give credit where credit is to due. So he did the Abraham Accord, the Accords, and that is a good thing.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to go to Dubai on Friday, just because you said that.
And while she's gone, if you
I
need. to
am
have a
literally
look-
going to Dubai on Friday,
And,
but
and while she's gone, Risa,
Yes.
get in touch with me if you want to do any more petitions, and I'll walk you through them.
Okay.
absolutely. But Sharon, what you said is very profound also. And
No,
yes,
Shakespeare,
there is
Shakespeare said it.
what Shakespeare said, but what you take into your heart, but the other part of it, which is that each time we're talking about it differently now. We are better than we were before.
Oh,
We
yeah.
talk about pregnant people. We say the word abortion.
Yes.
We fight for the religious freedom part of it. That's what the Jewish abortion advocacy together, right? That's why we're coming together, because we didn't do that before. And it's so important not to let the religious narrative get away from us in this issue or in any issue. So we're learning a lot of things now from not having gotten the ball over the finish line, of getting it there this time, and not just for this one right. I'm always informed by the Civil Rights Act. It's one of my favorite things ever. You know, the Pam Carlin, the incredible professor from Stanford who did a lot of testimony, right? And everybody got to learn from her. Well, I got to learn voting rights from her. She was my voting rights professor at UVA. And one of the things she told us was the story of how we have equal rights in the Equal Rights Amendment. It was because they thought that by putting women in there, they were going to kill it. And instead, we all got rights. So things happen if we keep moving, and things happen. And so we have a much broader coalition.
So tired of this. We're
Yeah.
so tired.
Yeah,
No, I'm still in it.
yeah,
This
we
is
are
no
tired.
question.
And we are tired. It is easier to do it together. And it is easier to, when we acknowledge that, yeah, we are tired and we are taking the next step. Because we do not have to get the boulder all the way up to the top of the mountain. We just have to keep taking the next step from wherever we are. And it is easier when we're doing it together.
Mhm.
Because it can be hard. This was a very hard December and January.
Mhm.
Very hard.
Shoshana, I really like that you gave us a date for Repro Shabbat for next year,
Yeah.
because I learned about Repro Shabbat too late to put it on our calendar for our synagogue. And we already had something else planned, so we did it the week before. But having it now, we can all do something and plan a little bit better.
Yeah,
I'm actually, when I
literally
get off
as
this call, I'm going to email my rabbi and tell him I want it as a sisterhood Shabbat, and we're going to do something.
Excellent. Like
But
as
that's
I was
really
putting the
important
slide
to have
together,
these
we
dates.
got the dates. Yep.
Mhm.
It was very good timing for us. So, and there's going to be more stuff. Really keep your eyes open. There's going to be some great collective actions that'll happen between now and June as we try to keep the energy going forward.
Well, if you
For
keep giving
abortion
us
rights.
these dates
Civil
in
rights.
advance, we can plan.
Yeah.
We need the dates in advance to share with our clergy. That's, I think, where it comes to a problem.
Yep. We are
Otherwise,
doing
their calendars
better.
are full.
Yep, no, we are doing better, right? We have a good sense of our tentpole advocacy like webinars. We don't have dates for them yet, but we have a good idea already of the tentpoles for this year, and we'll get them to you as soon as we have them.
That would be awesome.
And there's more good trouble coming. There's exciting stuff coming in the advocacy world, things where we can make immediate difference in our worlds. And we're going to be very excited to be sharing them with you. And with that,
Good night. I'll see
I'm
you.
going to go and watch Snowcross.
Enjoy. Good night, everyone. Nice seeing you all.
Good night.
Good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
I love coming back to the Northeast.
And I
having
love
you.
seeing you, Mom. You're
You're
the
always
best.
welcome.
You guys, fantastic program. And the, that cut to about a half is what we've been seeing, where you say originally we used to take a 25% haircut, but this 50% haircut, people who are registering to get the link, it's like a new habit that people have. They really do want the link. They want the materials. They will see it later. So you touched those people with the program and with your advertising of it. So congratulations to all of you.
Thank you.
Michelle.
Good night. Good night. Thanks.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
I'm going.
Good seeing you, ladies.
Yeah, so we're all set. Trina, I then spoke to Paulette and then I spoke to Michelle. Paulette was just getting enthusiastic